before Leslie died, I had a dream that she had gotten sick and died. This dream was so real that I woke up with tears coming down my eyes. I got up out of my bed to check on Leslie and she was okay. After this, I treated Leslie differently. I tried to make sure that she had a lot of fun. We got to eat out a lot more. We saw a lot of movies. I got free movie passes every once in a while in the mail. And Leslie would open up my mail and tell me what movie we were going to see next.
When people used to ask me, "Oh, what are the names of your children?" and not asking me their sex, I would name all the names, and they said, "Oh, you have four boys." She was very, very mature, even at an early age. When Bubs, her maternal grandmother, would come and babysit when your father and I were out for the evening, um, whenever Bubs wanted to know where anything was or what the procedure was, what time you are to go to bed or do your homework or whatever, or where the band-aids were, or what you should have for dinner, Leslie would, as young, when she was really small, she would know exactly where everything was kept. So she was very observant. She would watch me, and I didn't tell her because she, being the third, I thought Jeffrey would know where everything was, but she knew where everything was.
And Leslie was the third one, unexpected, but we were very happy to have her. When she was born, she was very a little different. She took a little while to gain weight, and I think this may have been tied back to lupus.
She was a good baby, but she slept a lot, and she um, was always, she had this eczema. Her skin was dry. She was always scratching. Even in her sleep, she would scratch, and sometimes it would be so bad that she'd scratch until she would bleed.
Dr. Healy was Leslie's doctor for over 6 years, up until a month before she died.
The rash is, for most people, um, as with Leslie, more of a nuisance than something terrible, and it's best to treat it with things without side effects, which is a local cortisone cream.
Leslie first noticed symptoms of her lupus during our June 21st to 23rd, 1986 trip to the World's Fair.
She came back during the summer, and she complained of severe joint pains. And also her eczema was pretty bad on her face. And so she had already started going to Dr. Alan Izumi, a dermatologist. And when I told, at that visit when I went with her, I told him about her uh, complaints of severe joint pains and lethargy and weight loss. He suggested that maybe she ought to see a rheumatologist and that perhaps she had lupus.
We didn't know anything about the disease at all, but we've read and learned a little about it, and I've always been optimistic and always felt that there was a better prognosis than the doctor gave, but I guess the doctor was correct. At the time she was diagnosed, the doctor says she has 10 years or less, and it was 10 years or less.
I kind of feel she was so intuitive that I think maybe she did pick it up, but she didn't say anything to me. And I really felt bad because it was diagnosed in, I think she came back, it was diagnosed in December.
Of 86, yeah.
And she came back for Christmas. It was diagnosed then. And then after 2 weeks vacation, she left for school again at UW.
Much of the trouble of that lupus causes is described as inflammation. Joints are common, pleurisy is common. The problem in the kidney, much of that problem can be an inflammation. The inflammation in joints responds very well to prednisone, and as in Leslie's case, I think a dose that's small enough not to give side effects.
Well, she was ill. Then the following year, she had pleurisy, and that is a result of the lupus.
The inflammation I was talking about, one of the common places for that to happen is the pleura is the outside encasing or lining of the lung, and that tissue in many ways reacts the same as the lining of the joint, and it's not rare to have that get inflamed. Aspirin both helps the pain of joints and to some degree helps the inflammation, and by combining that with the prednisone, the aim is to keep the dose of prednisone down.
She was very tired, and she came back, and she practically slept all of that vacation, and she said, oh, I don't know whether she had a premonition of her pending death, but she said, Mom, I want to come back next year. And I said, well, why so soon? And she said, well, she says, I was sick, and I really didn't enjoy my vacation, and I'd like to see my friends here. And I said, okay, whatever you want to do. And that was the last time she came home.
That by then, Les was really cranky. I mean, like, cranky. No afternoon nap and stuff. And I said, well, we cannot leave until we can take a picture with the characters. So, got these pictures of Les. She's like, okay, you want a picture? You want a picture? And then she's like, she chased down one of those chipmunk people. And she like turned around, so we could take a picture with them. And then, for some reason, they were kind of ignoring her. So then she's really cranky. She started to like curse out the chipmunks. Okay, let's go, Donna, let's take the picture, let's go. It was really funny. But we learned that when Les is cranky, we don't mess with her when she's cranky.
And she was real shy. She never turned and talked to me or anything. But I would stop, when we were between calls, then I would turn to her and say, oh, what's your name? And what are you doing? And how old are you? And asking her lots and lots of questions. And she'd always just do yes, no. She'd give me her age. Say she went to college. But she wouldn't answer very many questions. And it was several years later that I found out that she thought that she would get in trouble if she talked between telephone calls.
You would have a conversation with her, and you try to get something out of her about herself, but she'd always switch it around to, well, no, what do you like, or what do you this, and then she'd get the conversation back on yourself, and you're going, no, Leslie. So she was a person that really could make other people open up too, even though she was really shy.
But I know that one of the things that I could see that she was wanting to experience or longing for, I don't know if that's the correct word, was experiencing romance, love, that kind of stuff.
We watch Grease when it first came out on TV, watch it over and over on tape. Like Stewart and Les would really get into that, so we would like mouth the words and know all the lines. We used to play video games when that was popular. That was during high school too, so our game would be the Ms. Pac-Man game.
Right, yeah.
So she and I would always play that and challenge each other.
She's the next closest thing to a sister to me, and vice versa. And we had always said, if we do get married, that she was going to be my maid of honor and vice versa. And now I'm sitting here going, Leslie, now I have to choose a friend,
She came home and came here one afternoon. And all I asked her was what her plans were. I asked her, are you going to get married pretty soon? She says, oh no.
The August before she died, we were just sitting in the living room talking, and she just brought this out of the blue, and she mentioned she didn't know, why people wanted to live to be so old in age. And I guess she was talking to my grandmother who was in her 80s. And she said that she did not want to live to be an old age, and if she died soon, she would welcome her death, and she looked forward to dying.
She had shingles. She had a very bad case of shingles. It was so bad and so painful, she couldn't even put her jeans on. It was just that painful, like burning sensation.
Shingles is the chickenpox virus getting in one nerve tract so that people get it like one side of the body, one shoulder, one arm. And it generally only happens, it's very rare to happen more than once. And what happens is most everybody gets chickenpox as a kid and is done with it.
Yes.
But some people, the virus, which acts up again later on in life, along the one nerve route, as I mentioned. And it's puzzling why, but it's thought to mean there's something not working right with your immune response. And of course, that's a problem with lupus. And so when people with lupus get it, it's considered another indication that the immune response is not exactly right.
Leslie's car was stolen from our secured garage downstairs. Leslie came to me and asked me, did I take her car, or did I park it someplace else? I said no. And that's when she realized that her car was stolen.
Her car was stolen shortly before that, and I guess stress placed upon her always makes things difficult. So that could be a contributing factor, but it's hard to really say. You know, we never really know how much that contributed to her death. And it's sad from a standpoint that it was important to her, but yet it was very small.
And she's really distraught, and I told her, let's just not worry about it. There's really nothing more you can do. You can't like drive around Washington and look for your car, so let's just try to enjoy the day. And I took her to get some ice cream. That would made her feel better. Leslie loved food. She liked fried food. I always used to scold her too much fried food. She loved candy. She loved junk food, period.
Did she?
We'd go out and she just eat junk all the time. Junk, french fries, pizza, ice cream, soda.
When I found out she was taking an exercise class, I kind of felt, like a slob, and I thought, well, I'll take it with her. It's a farther drive, but I know if someone's waiting there for me, I'll actually go to the class. And so I'd come by here and then pick her up and we'd go to the class together.
If you gain weight from prednisone, it's because of an increased appetite. But it has this kind of particular thing of making the face more round because of affecting the fat deposits here in the cheek. When we had to put the dose up to, like 3 tablets a day or 2 or 3, that would happen.
Leslie woke up in the morning of November 8th, 1993, paralyzed. The night before, I had taken her to the hospital emergency room because she had terrible, terrible back pain. I brought her home from the hospital. I thought she would be okay. Leslie called out to me. I found her paralyzed. I had to get some way of moving her from her bed to my car. I had to get some way of moving Leslie. I never thought about calling an ambulance, so I went downstairs. I got the grocery carts, and I looked for the one that was flat, and I just lifted Leslie from her bed, put her in the grocery cart, and carried her and pushed her to the door. Because, of course, this whole story was related to the entire family, how I had pushed Leslie in the grocery cart and took her to my car and took her to the hospital. You know that game of telephone where you tell someone something, they tell someone else something, and the message gets all garbled up? My grandmother told one of her sisters that I pushed Leslie in a grocery cart, and the story came back to us that Leslie and I were shopping, and she collapsed when we were shopping, so I put her in the grocery cart and took her to the hospital.
I got the phone call to authorize the surgery. She needed consent of a parent or another family member, and they couldn't get a hold of Eurojaf. And they couldn't get a hold of mom or dad, so they called the house. That's the number she gave them, and the doctor spoke to me. So I authorized the surgery. I said, go ahead and do it. And my mom came home and I told her, what happened. So she called the hospital and found out what happened. And she thought it's really much more serious than it was, because I guess she knows about this type of things. So just when I was driving around the driveway, Mom came home and she told me, don't go to work and pack your things, and we're going. So.
And when we heard she was in the hospital, we just dropped everything, and within a matter of 2-3 hours, we're on a plane. It's just very fast, very sudden. And the last few days we spent with her, we were very happy. We got up here and she was out of the operation, and we visited with her, and we really expected everything to turn out fine from a standpoint that she was more concerned about being able to walk and whether be able to go back to work. And I tried to encourage her that there was always something to look forward to, and she always seemed to be happy with that idea that she would be able to go back to work.
She did say to me that, she has to hurry up and get back to work. She told me this, and she had just been assigned to the accounting department, and she was auditing their sales. And she said that you have to do a certain number of audits, I presume, and that no one, really takes your place, that you'll have to do the work, period, yourself. And she was concerned because she was very conscientious that the work would just keep piling up. And so she wanted to get back as soon as she could.
It happened the day before her funeral service in Hawaii. It was late at night. I was sleeping. I was pretty sound asleep. And then I felt my bed covers being ruffled. And I don't think I was turning. It actually ruffled, and it was to kind of rouse me. And I thought someone else was in the room. So I opened my eyes, and I saw a glowing light. I didn't have my contact lenses or anything, so it was kind of blurry. And I saw it was my sister's face, and she had her, hair really nicely done, because she had gone to the hairdresser like the Friday before she went to the hospital. So she looked really good.
Nearby, and it was right by the roadside. And I kept going there. It was in December. That little metal plate was not there yet, but I saw someone else's there, a Japanese man's. And I said, and it looked cute too. Yeah. He said, this is Leslie's grave site. This doesn't belong to that guy. And I circled all over. And I looked and I said, my goodness, this is the place, but it's got someone else's name here. So I looked for it all over. I was there for an hour, and I was getting a little frustrated. I thought, well, I'm going to go to the office. And then I returned to the same site, and there were 3 ladies there standing. And then there was a custodian with them. And I asked the guy, because I knew he was a worker for the memorial park. I said, I'm looking for Leslie Ing's nameplate, but I can't find it. And I know it's someplace here. It's right here, in fact, but it's got this guy's name here. And that's when the ladies overheard me. And they said, this is Leslie. They put the wrong nameplate there.
I've got to bring the alcohol polish. Yeah. Got to bring the, what do you call that? Salmonized cleanup. Stuff will come off. The robot we have. So now,
Just mow the grass right over the.
all the salts.
It is coming off. You have to add
No, gotta get the other stuff.
grease.
Not the elbow grease. It's the green one. You know the green can. I tell you like the green can.
Well, did you find it? In certain parts. I don't know, Lord. That's brass, huh?
Brass, supposedly brass.
Bronze.
Bronze.
The lawai is from our garden before. Huh? The lawai is from our garden, and the bird. No, lawai, the green. Yeah, I know. But where that one from? You bought that? Yeah, I always buy that. Don't you see that at your family grave? I always order that. So I'm gonna bring some more. And the bird of paradise laundry that Dad is polishing the headstone. Yeah, you have
exactly. Rub it off.
Let the tequila first. Tequila later. Too early for tequila now. Well, not different. You see the white come, not green. I don't know why.
Hi, this is Leslie in the Sales and Client Department at Eddie Power. I'm in the office today, but away from my desk. If you leave me a message, I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thank you. Hi, thanks for calling. Please leave a message and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thanks for calling.
I'm 85 now, and I think doctors tell me I have 10 more years to go. No, didn't have any fear. I just feel that if God's will is the time for you to go, you go, and go happily.